All right, good afternoon, everybody. Being at 1 o'clock, we'll give people just about 2 more minutes to get going. And out of respect for everybody that's already joined, we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're just going to give people 2 more minutes. We're going to go ahead and get started with today's webinar on identity management in the cloud, the modernization of Active Directory. Thanks for joining us today. All right, thanks everybody for joining us today. My name is Paul Hager. I'm the CEO of Information Technology Professionals. ITP is a strategic Microsoft partner, one of only 5 Tier 1 cloud service solution providers here in the state of Wisconsin. What we're going to talk about today is Azure Identity Management, really the modernization or the evolution of Active Directory as a product. So we all remember Active Directory when it comes about in Server 2000. Enters the scene and says, this is the way we're going to manage credentials. And at that point, wasn't a lot of competitors in that identity market, and people want to be able to manage their logins from a central management console. That's really where Active Directory started from. Now, Active Directory, meaning the login you use to log into your PC every day, is a core identity, meaning it's a login identity that everybody uses. The thing we're seeing in our customers and what we're seeing in the business world today that we're allowing our end users to have that identity and 5, 10, 15, 20 other identities, other websites, other providers, things like that. And what really part of what Microsoft Azure has brought to the enterprise or to the small business is the opportunity to use your Azure Active Directory, secure it, monitor it, and grow the usefulness of that single identity solution. We're going to talk a little bit today about what that looks like and what we've done for some of our customers. So the first thing is that we have a mobile and cloud challenge. 61% of workers mix their personal and work tasks on the same device, right? We all know this. We as IT managers, we just say to ourselves, oh, well, maybe it's company owned, maybe it's not company owned. What can I do? You know, we have the corporate email on there, but how can we protect it? And here there is actually solutions. We can find ways to build walls around the corporate data while leaving the personal data alone on a mobile device, all using Active Directory and Microsoft Azure. Greater than 80% of employees admit to using non-approved software as a service applications in their jobs. One of the favorite opportunities I've had was to do some consulting work for a large Wisconsin company. They felt like they had a software as a service problem. They brought a sampling of 50 of their employees into Madison. We sat with the CEO and the CIO and myself on a panel, and we asked everybody to raise their hands if they were using Dropbox. Half the room raises their hand. OneDrive, half the room raises their hand. Slack, half the room raises their hand. People, in the event of if their business is not providing really good modern tools for interaction and collaboration, your end users today, especially your millennials, are savvy enough to just go use those solutions. They'll just go sign up for Gmail and start throwing corporate data in Google Drive. So we have to find ways to enable them in their workspace and then give them a platform that they're going to be effective in, train them on it and enable it, because they're going to go find it anyway, whether we like it or not. And again, most intrusions, right, is that RDS server on the edge of your network that's still only protected by your Active Directory credential. That AD credential is so critical to what goes on in your network. So how do we keep up? How do we keep up from data leaks, from lost devices, from compromised identities? How do we allow our business partners and IT providers to be able to interact with our network securely? How do we prevent credentials from getting out? Microsoft has a single vision in providing a solution for employees, business partners, and customers. through Azure Active Directory. That means you can have access to everything from everywhere. You can manage your security and productivity, and you can integrate it already with what you have. You don't need to have another solution layered on top of Active Directory. Active Directory is enough. We can connect it to Azure and do some really cool things. So the suite of products that this is called within Azure is called Microsoft Azure Active Directory Premium. So that's the actual thing that you buy from a provider like us. And then what you do, and we'll show this in the diagram later, is connect that to your existing on-premise Active Directory using any server that's a member server in your environment and running the Azure AD Connect tool. By running the AD Connect tool, you have instantly connected your on-premise Active Directory securely with the cloud, and now we can leverage everything that Microsoft Azure has to easily manage your identities and provide single sign-on and even self-service password resets. From a device and app management standpoint, Microsoft's offering is called Microsoft Intune, which integrates with Microsoft SCCM, or System Center Configuration Manager. This is a complete MDM solution that allows you to put a wall around corporate data on mobile devices, whether they're corporate owned or personally owned, and can guarantee removal of that corporate data in the event that the device is lost. Then we have Microsoft Azure Rights Management Premium. It allows you to secure documents, secure all the Word documents of your organization. If you're a law firm, you can apply Azure Rights Management across all Word documents and make sure that if a Word document were to be dumped onto somebody's thumb drive and walked out of the environment, it would not open when they do not have authentication to Azure. And then that last piece is always, how do we have advanced threat protection? And Microsoft is a leader in this space and has advanced threat analytics as a solution to allow simple, actionable reporting when there's a breach in your environment. So the current reality, like we talked about, if you ask your end users, are they using Dropbox, are they using Box, are they using Salesforce, are they using GoToMeeting, are they using all these different tools, the answer is going to be yes, whether you've requested it or not. So you have these on-premise devices, you have managed mobile devices. All of those devices can be managed within Active Directory using that single credential. So like we talked about, you have your on-premise solution. So this is your Azure Active Directory. When we mean on-premise, maybe at multiple locations, but this is your internal Active Directory domain. We have all these cloud products, things like Office 365, other software as the solution pieces to it. And then you have Microsoft Azure Active Directory. Again, with that simple connection that we talked about, Azure AD Connect Premium, we're able to offer single sign-on between any of those utilities. So if a user signs on with their Active Directory credential and then goes to use one of those software as a service applications, it can sign on for them, even if it's a web-based application. That means your users aren't retyping their credential, which helps it protect you from keyloggers on machines. It also means that you have less things to manage, less identities and credentials to manage. It also means you can give them shared access. So you can bake into the login or the sign-on process a shared credential to, say, a corporate Facebook account. So you can securely allow 3 users in your environment access using only their normal AD credential to access that shared Facebook account. But if you terminate one of those users, they will have never known that Facebook credential. It also offers password self-service. If any of you are operating a service desk today or are responsible for tickets inside of your organization, how many of those tickets are related to just simple password resets? People who are remote need to reset their password when trying to log into a terminal server and aren't able to do so. Azure is there providing a web portal that users can use and do a password reset, just like they would when they're resetting their password at Amazon. Azure Active Directory, we think of Active Directory as this, relatively uncool thing that sits on our premise. Azure Active Directory as a product has existed now for over 10 years. And there are over 7 million Azure Active Directories in use today, and they process over 1 trillion authentications since the release of the service itself. So Azure AD is just as prevalent as your OpenAuth identification into something like Gmail, right? They're handling billions of authentications. And it's being used increasingly by not only public systems, but increasingly by more secure identities. We're engaged currently with a Wisconsin state government entity now that's responsible for financial information, and they're moving their authentication to Azure Active Directory. The reason why they feel comfortable doing that, again, is how much effort Microsoft has put into Azure. Azure represents 22 data centers globally around the United States. And you can geo-fence all of your authentication and all of your data within the United States if you need to. Azure has complete security in all the compliance checkboxes, NIST, SOX, HIPAA, SSA 16, every individual security measure that you would want to have happen for your business, Azure already has checked for you, and they have a compliance portal that you can audit at any point in time. Again, the deployment scenarios for thousands of apps with one identity makes the lives of users and IT managers easier. It makes it easier to collaborate with partners. We as an IT firm then, in our support mechanism, if one of our customers is using Azure Active Directory, premium using the cloud, they can just allow our identity, meaning our ID and our own internal company ITP AD domain, credentials into their environment. So rather than create all those utility users that sit in Active Directory that you're supposed to be paying Windows CALs for, instead of having a bunch of utility identities that you don't know how long and how often vendors are logging into your system, you can instead use the B2B integration, not have to manage a credential for an external partner like ITP or any other company. They can authenticate to your system, but you'll be able to track and monitor that activity. Again, it's all identity driven. You can connect with consumers as well, and it's your domain control really as a service. So again, this is what it looks like. You have your Azure Active Directory. You're connecting to things like SQL, like LDAP, like web services, and you can sync any on-premise Active Directory. That's all using Azure Active Directory Connect and Connect Health, which is their web portal in which you can monitor the health of your connection and your integration. So again, Azure AD Connect supports multiple forums. It has bi-directional password sync, meaning that if you change your credential in something like Office 365, it can sync that back down to your Active Directory and vice versa. It's monitored. You can have email alerts when the synchronization is not healthy, and your AD will still work if this connection is not working. So that means that if for some reason that connection app isn't running, you can still authenticate off of Azure and you can still authenticate off your local AD. So as to where with a typical, what we had to do before this was something called ADFS, or a Federated Active Directory Service. That requires 4 different virtual machines on premise to run an ADFS setup. And while it does provide a very seamless and transparent single sign-on experience for your end customer, if ADFS is down, there is no way to authenticate either internally or through Azure. With the use of Connect, which is a free tool that comes as a part of this, you get bidirectional sync. You get a lot of that same single sign-on feel without having any additional virtual machine overhead. So again, you can have an HR application integration where, let's say you have ADP for payroll or Workday, your user's already authenticated to their machine, it will log them into ADP. It's one less identity to manage, one less password that they're hitting your HR team up for as well. Down the roadmap, Azure and Microsoft are heavily investing in Azure AD Connect. If you ask me, I think the vision here is that ADFS was viewed as too complex, and this is a tool that they want to be able to make easier and easier. Every 3 months, Azure is iterating and creating new updates. 6 months ago, Azure AD Connect was called DirSync, and DirSync only wrote and update one direction. Now Azure AD Connect is fully bidirectional multi-forest support. It's fully secured via your own encryption key that you can hold, and I think the future is that you can run it anywhere. Right now, one of its limitations is just that you can only have one instance of Azure AD Connect running in your environment. So if it's down, if that server that it's running on is down, then then the sync is going to be broken. The roadmap is that they will allow a cluster for Azure AD Connect and multiple, as well as they'll improve the pass-through authentication experience. Again, there's already 2,500 pre-integrated popular software as a service apps already set up in Azure AD Premium, meaning that your environment probably wouldn't require if any, custom programming. It's something that you would be able to enable through the help of a partner like us in a matter of a couple of days, and you'd be off and running, and you'd be able to manage and add your own apps all on your own. You can also add your own apps, and you can have your users add their own self-service application management. So if they have their own credential at just one-off program, it can save that credential for them like a password manager. So again, we have all these pre-integrated apps, developer-integrated apps, and there's new self-service as well. This is what the interface looks like for your end users. So your company has a custom myapps.microsoft.com/your-company, and you can customize the look and feel of that web page. Here's where you can manage your account for apps and groups. So you can base off your Active Directory groups what applications your end users have access to, and you can provide, this is where you can provide that self-service password reset, and people can request access to other applications. So this is in use live today by ourselves and by a number of our customers. At large organizations, like you see in the testimonial here from Sainsbury's, it reduced help desk calls drastically by just allowing people to create their own self-service applications. It makes everyone's lives easier. It's a really beautiful interface with these very easy, colorful boxes that you can click on for you and for your end users. In addition to that, you can run a tool on a sampling of your end users' PCs that just sits silently in the background. What it does is it records what software applications your end users are using, what web-based applications they're using, and it actually can make suggestions to you, the IT administrator, about what applications you should add into your company's MyApps portal, which is really handy. It's called Cloud App Discovery. When it's integrated with Office 365, you can see from a single pane of glass your ability to log into Mail, Calendar, Word Online, or your custom apps, or your corporate box account, or your corporate HR app, all from that same pane of glass. MyApps fully integrates with Office 365. So single sign-on, and this works on Mozilla, Chrome, IE, Safari, even Apple products. Again, you have self-service password unlock and lock. Here's where you can set up multi-factor authentication. So if you have had interest in requiring people to have to enter some sort of token in addition to their username and password when logging in to either their PC at the office or their terminal server when they're remote, those are all things also a part of Azure Active Directory Premium. So when we say that line item or that SKU, if you will, or that product is all of this stuff. It's all the online interface, all the reporting, all the single sign-on, and two-factor authentication, all for that one per user per month, monthly SKU. With multi-factor authentication today, Microsoft out of the box supports cell phone apps, phone call, text message as your second factor, but they also have certified integrations with physical token companies so that you can hand out physical tokens as well. So again, you have comprehensive identity management across a centralized access console. You can manage and control that as your IT professionals directly from Microsoft Azure and a very easy to use web portal. So from this web portal, you can manage your collaboration with other partners. This is where we talked about that use case where you have business partners that also happen to have their own internal AD. You don't have to do any federation. They can use their own credentials. They can use their own logins, and you can manage that. Now, you can require that their login and credential meet a certain expectation before you allow them to collaborate with you. It allows you to easily allow other people and partners access to your AD while securing it via a simple invite process. Again, you can provision from it. You can add Azure AD from both the old and new Azure portals. You can have group assignments. You can have dynamic groups. You can wrap that all in a company brand. Also part of Azure Active Directory Premium with the announcement of Windows 10 is the ability to domain join and manage a Windows 10 device, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud, seamlessly. So built into some of the guts of Windows 10 and backward supportable into Windows 8.1, if a user leaves the environment, normally if you have a user that has a laptop and they leave the Active Directory environment and they go home, they're still able to log into their laptop. And that's using a process called cached credentials. And cached credentials are actually a security violation, and many security compliance requirements will require you to disable that function. Cached credentials saves, by default, the last 10 passwords that have been used on that device. It means if I were to pick up that laptop and steal it, I'd be able to run a process that looks at that file and finds what those last 10 passwords were. And that's why it's a security violation. But really, realistically, to require users to execute a VPN before even logging in to Active Directory is a difficult and complex environment to set up. With Azure AD Premium and Azure AD Join with Windows 10 and Windows 8.1, where actually your users, as long as they have an internet connection, are able to authenticate securely in a way that you can actually make sure your devices should be authenticated without having to use cache credentials, which makes it enterprise compliant. It also means that you can have MDM auto-enrollment, meaning I have a new tablet, I want to add it to the domain, I want to add it to access my apps. You can actually require that people have already set up through Microsoft Intune before that. So right now, most people have an Exchange server on premise, or maybe in Microsoft Office 365. Anyone on earth could open up the Mail app on an iPhone, and if they guess at your password, they could connect and have access to your corporate data. By putting in Azure AD Premium and Microsoft Intune, you can require that they have fully federated with the Microsoft Intune MDM tool, and only then will their connection through Mail to Office 365 be successful. When you add that extra step, while it sounds maybe a little painful for your internal IT, what it then means is there's a wall around that Mail app, and you're able to control the ability for people to forward corporate data from the Mail app of your corporate Office 365 out to, say, their Gmail. And this way you can prevent users from just attaching attachments and sending them over to their Gmail account to be able to steal the data and walk away. It also means that even if it's not a corporate-owned device, you can execute a wipe command that pulls all that business data off because it's managed by Intune and still leave all their personal data there. So again, when we talked about AD Join, it's Windows 10 device directly to Azure, Microsoft Passport, your MDM auto-enrollment, self-service BitLocker management for your end-user encryption for their endpoints and their laptops. There's also the advancement of conditional access. So if a user is at their main office, and you can see that the IP they're coming from is the WAN IP of corporate, maybe then we don't present them with a login screen, we allow them to pass directly through. So you can even have conditional rules that are set up based on the device's state, the user group they're in, or the IP range that they're in, to allow them even better access or require multi-factor or not require multi-factor. So while a laptop is in the office, you don't need multi-factor. When it's out of the office, we do. Things like that. All, again, that cloud app discovery I talked about, identity management and advanced reporting. Here's what some of the reports look like. So they look very similar if you've done Google Analytics. It's a very beautiful report interface that actually gives you all the information about whether there are lots of failed login attempts in your internal AD or in Azure AD Premium. So by turning this feature on and in cloud enabling it, it automatically extends your reporting ability and your internal security capabilities on your on-premise Active Directory environment as well. There's a very neat reporting interface that can email you reports of failed login attempts. Here you can see in the middle of the Cloud App Discovery tool, identifying what tools your users are using, what websites they're going to. And then we have privileged identity management, where we can get alerts identified when someone is trying to access something that they don't have privileges to access. We just talked about, again, conditional access, multi-factor authentication, and advanced security and reporting. Azure AD Premium includes B2C, meaning that you would allow a partner or someone else to access an internal resource and not even have them to have Active Directory. They could just have a Microsoft, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Google account. So if you run an IaaS server, you run a SharePoint system, you want to provide access to external users, but you don't have to pay for that user, you don't have to manage that credential, and they're an external non-corporate user, you're actually able to use any consumer OAuth identity and allow it to authenticate to your environment. Again, Azure AD Connect is the way to make all of that work, completely secured by Kerberos and NTLM, as well as a secure encryption key that you own yourselves. Keep in mind, Microsoft has a world of devices, all the way from mobile devices to Surfaces, to Surface Pros, to Surface Books, as well as their Surface TV, all running the Windows platform that are able to integrate directly with all the Azure stack. So again, identity is your core going forward. Using that single Active Directory, you can extend it using this Azure AD Connect and enabling the service. So with that, we'll see if we have any questions, and we'll try to answer some of those live. If you have a few minutes, go ahead and enter into the GoToWebinar system any questions that you have. While we're waiting for those questions, also let people know that Azure Active Directory Premium is a Azure SKU, which is per user per month. Intune is also a separate product, as well as Azure Rights Management are all separate products with the separate SKUs. But there is one combined product suite, Enterprise Mobility Suite, or EMS, and that is a one SKU, one cost that includes Azure AD Premium, Microsoft Intune, and Digital Rights Management, all in one product family. Even if you don't have Office 365 now, you can buy EMS Suite and connect it to your on-premise AD and enable everything that we've talked about today. That whole suite can be enabled from that one product SKU. If you already have Office 365, it can also just be added on to your existing subscription. Right. We didn't have any questions come through, which means I either did a great job or everybody's asleep, which is fine. This is how you reach out to us. If you're interested in hearing more about what this product is, what a scope of work would be to deploy it for your own organization, you can reach out directly to our VP of Sales, Bill Henry. This is his contact information. If you have any follow-up questions for myself, feel free to email me as well. You'll see us at Microsoft's Worldwide Partner Conference in Toronto coming up, as well as we host webinars every month, as well as in-person events in Milwaukee, Madison, and Appleton markets on a rotating monthly basis. But follow us on our website, view our blog, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You'll be able to find out all the latest for our own events. Make sure to follow us so you can keep in touch. We don't just talk about Microsoft products. We talk about the whole range of technologies that we think are really getting adopted today and that are interesting for our end customers. So today is Microsoft. We have Pure Storage and an all-flash event coming up, discuss the future of flash and virtual desktops. We have Cisco talking about security and the next level of their fully managed ASAs using the Firepower services and how that's a next-gen firewall product. And so we just try to hit on different topics that we think are relevant to people. So thanks for joining us today. And if you have any questions, feel free to follow up with us. We'll hope that everybody gets back to their lunch and has a great day.